work, one whole day to play. Come on, everybody, wear your roller skates today. It's Saturday, 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 it's Saturday, Saturday, it's Saturday, Saturday, it's Saturday, yeah.
Hello, friends. Welcome to another episode of Career Exploration Saturday. I'm your host, Ebony Tyler. I have real conversations with real people about real jobs. So this week, I had a really long and fascinating conversation with my cousin Fatima. Fatima is an early childhood educator in California, and she shares what it was like being born and raised in this Muslim community in Brooklyn, and how coming out of that community, she found herself, and in finding herself, she realized that hey, I'm not really American. And that her culture is really, and she really has super close ties to West African culture. Listen, it was fascinating. And she spent a lot of time talking about education and how we need to connect more to our children's souls during the Rona. And then it was just really super inspiring, very honest, very brave, and I'm so proud to have my big cousin Fatima on this week. So you know what? Let's just get right into it. So good afternoon, well, good morning to you because you are in California. Welcome, Fatima.
Good morning.
Exploration Saturday. I am so happy to have you here today.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
Thanks for answering the call. So I like to start off all of the conversations. Tell us who 16-year-old Fatima was. Did you have it all together? Did you know what you wanted to be? Did you have a master plan? What was it like?
Well, my 16-year-old Fatima was nothing like that. My 16-year-old Fatima is more so in comparison to a 5-year-old, a person who's just being released into the world, because my entire early childhood and my up to my mid teenager, I've been institutionalized. So what does that mean? Well, it means that I've been in a form of living where it exits you from the real life that surrounds you. So therefore, I didn't know much about that world, even though I was in it. We had our own thing going. So by the time I was 16, I was excited for a lot of things. I was excited just to be out of this community. You know, it was called Ansar Allah Community on Bushwick. So I was excited that a lot of things I had to adjust to dressing differently, because, you know, I was raised to cover my face and understand that this is the way that you're supposed to move in order to obtain heaven. So you have to really work through all these belief systems that you've been taught. So my 16-year-old me was just excited to be, in a sense, free, excited to know that there's more outside of this life than me and my needs and who I am. Wow. And how does these people do? And what's going on? And how are they going to heaven? And why do everyone looks like they're going to hell? What is going on in my world? Okay, reevaluate. So for me, my 16-year-old, no, I had no goals set. I was just happy to breathe a different type of air. So, yeah.
Do you want to tell us a little bit about what that new type of air was? Because, you know, so Fatima is my cousin. Her mom and my dad are siblings, brother and sister. So she's my first cousin. So I remember when your family came out of the community and you guys moved. So what was that like, moving and then going into a new educational system?
So moving was I mean, it was a very dramatic experience for me. It was very traumatic because of the fact that even though I was in a community and institutionalized, everything I know is New York and Brooklyn. So even though I haven't voluntarily listened to the music, it was constantly in our ears. We went to school, in public school. So we adapted to this Brooklyn, New York ways, even though we were Muslims. So it was a blended type of thing. And to come out of that from all you know, and to go to this weird place called Georgia, whoa, that was not okay for me. I mean, adapting to silence, adapting to crickets, bugs. It's like, what is going on? Like, I think for parents who move their kids from one place to the next, sometimes they need to really understand what's going on, because for me, that was a major big difference. I mean, simple things like the train, even though I've never been on public transportation in New York City, but the train used to pass by where our house was, where I lived, and that used to lull me to sleep. So I got accustomed to that. Then I moved to Georgia, and I hear beep, beep. First of all, I don't know what that is. I don't know why it's making so much noise. I'm trying to sleep. So those are the things you have to really adapt yourself to. Then you have to adapt yourself to the culture. We are Americans, but New York culture and Georgia culture is way big difference from the way that they speak. I couldn't understand anything. It was just like, even their mannerism, like people say that New Yorkers are rude. I don't think we're rude. We're busy. We don't have time for all that. How are you? Really? I don't have time. But in Georgia, they have time. They have time. So when someone approaches you with kindness, you don't know how to accept that. And so you have to understand that, no, this is not a freak. This is not a stalker. This is a kind person who speaks to you. So it was a lot of adaptation. I had to adapt to wearing a full covered garb from head to toe. The only thing that was showing was my eyes, to feeling comfortable enough to wear a shirt and a skirt without I felt naked. So I had to adapt to that. Then I had to adapt to the fact that I don't know how to deal socially with people, with my own peers outside of the community. So the jokes I don't get, the lingo, even though I spoke English, I wasn't aware of the slang or those things. So while everyone is thinking I should be up to par, I'm not. And I don't even know it. So then it's like, oh, what's wrong with her? She's stuck up. I'm like, I must be stuck up. That must be the thing that I am, because I don't know what's going on here. So even those type of things I'm unaware of. My childhood was raised in Arabic. I spoke Arabic. I lived Arabic. My sarcasms were in Arabic. My cuss words were in Arabic. So everything I know about who I am in New York as an American, I am Arabic. So coming into Georgia, no one knows that. And then it's a story that you just can't share. And people say, I got it. I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah. So you don't have anyone to say, you know what, you're going to get over this. Oh, you are okay. Or this is where you're at in your continuum of life. You have to figure it all out. And then you have these parents who are lost in their own dealings, trying to keep up and trying to do what's best. But then you have this kid who's along the ride as well, but she has to still go to school. She has to succeed. And those are the things. I have no clue ever going to public school. Never did that. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like, what a world. So for me, my taste of Georgia, it has left me a bitter taste. I don't like the state, period. But
okay, so you know what? Let's fast forward to your time being educated abroad, because I know you spent some time in Senegal, and I know that you are fluent in Arabic and Wolof. Can you share some with us about being educated in West Africa?
Yeah, that trip to West Africa was one of the best trips that my mom could have done for me, because while linking back to adapting to this world that you are unaware of and unprepared for, and then having the shock of that, and then going to a society like West Africa, I was able to find a part of me. I was like, okay, I exist somewhere. It was just, it wasn't here. Wow. I was able to speak my language. I was like, whoa, I am clearly understood. I don't have to explain. I don't have to write notes. I don't have to say, oh, because. So that trip to Senegal was one of the best experiences to help me bridge into being an American, because my DNA says I am an American. Everything about the way I was raised is not American. It is literally an overseas thing. So I was able to find myself I was able to find people who dress like me. Whoa, I am not a weirdo. Yes, I'm just not American. Got it. So that was a great experience. I was able to enroll in school. I was able to get back on this education system that I was accustomed to, which was Arabic school, because I had to do both. I had to do Arabic and English. So English was always a struggle because I didn't speak the language. Arabic wasn't. I felt a part of something. I felt smart. I felt able. And I think it's important to have that in order to have confidence in your own self. And so when I went to synagogue, I was able to reassure that you are okay. Whoa, it's just, you're not American. And even though everyone says you are, and it's a long story to why you're not, no one needs to have that. You know the road that you need to take. And so being able to kind of just mellow out in that culture for a while did good for my soul, because it allowed me to do soul searching in a better way in which I could understand. In the language I was able to hear, right. In the sarcasm I was able to get and joke with, in a way that you feel you belong. And so you don't always feel like, yeah, I'm just here. I have a smile on my face though, I'm correct. You feel like you can add. And so that was important to me, because that's what the type of child I was growing up into this Islamic Arabic world. Right. I was involved. I was smart. I was that. And so coming out of that, I was like, whoa. And then being able to get into it in a different manner, I was able to see things a little clearer. So I love school. I did very well in school, highly advanced, of course. And then it was time for me to realize my life as an American. So the years that I spent there, I was able to balance, you are an American, and there are cultures that you need to abide by in order for you to survive. It's a real thing. I don't have to bend to everything, but you need to get it. You know what I mean? And then I knew that this is going to be a world that's going to be soon in my past, because along the way, I started to not believe some of the things I was raised up with. Mm-hmm. So then that's meaning I'm defining myself. So I'm taking all of what I am, and then I'm doing the onion peel to say, Fatima is born again. Who is she? And I carry these certain values that I hold dear to me, but I'm not afraid of heaven and hell. And I don't need fear to grow. I don't need that or that statement or that judgment to say who I am as a woman. So those, when the layer peels. And I also, most important is, I don't feel ashamed of the way I was raised. Wow. And that is important. Even though I have billions of people, if I tell this story, they'd be like, what? But I am not ashamed, because the woman I am today, it had to be that way. And I'm okay. And it's okay that I just met my family. And those things are good. You know what I mean? So
yeah.
I feel good.
I mean, I'm so grateful that you are sharing this, and I'm so grateful for all of the healing that has taken place for you to become this woman, the woman that you are today. And I think that it also informs, your work. And fast forwarding to today and understanding your work in education and how you work with English learners, does that inform how you approach the work, being someone who your first language was Arabic?
To be honest, Ebony, my choice of career was not being a teacher, to be honest. I did not want to be a teacher, period. It was not something that was along my goals in life. I wanted to be a doctor because I had this thing about helping people. But I had this opportunity and to do nursing assistant. Mm-hmm. So I straight out of high school, did nursing assistant. I had this opportunity that also led me to synagogue. I went to synagogue for clinical reasons, not for educational reasons. But as I was digging into the clinical aspect, I didn't have the guts for it. I was literally passing out a lot. Mm-hmm. So then it was advised by a doctor saying, this is really not your thing. You should let's embark on something different, because as a doctor, you can't keep passing out. I'm like, thanks.
That wouldn't work.
I'm not going to be able to deal with this. That's when the school was open and available for me to get into. And that's when I found my connection. I'm like, that's me trying to learn another language, clueless about what the heck is going on. You know what I mean? And that's where my love of education really started to build. And then, you know, moving forward, going back to my mom's home, she had an in-home childcare where all of my little itty bitty old cousins used to come around, and Umi was known to be the family teacher. And it was very inspiring. And even though I was a teenager and I'm like, I do this for my mom, you know, teenagers, that's what we were. But then you still get the effects of my little cousins and the way they learn and the way they grow in their mind frame. When I looked at my little cousins and the way their behavior was, that's what led me to education. Because then I was able to connect back to my 4 or 5-year-old self and say, I need someone to understand my 4 or 5-year-old self, because I have a lot to say. And even though we're children, we have a loud voice. And even though it may not add to adult world, but it's a great building for children world. And we have to build children world in order for them to be great adults. We just can't skip. It's like a Lego. You have to build those things. You have to build. And so when I had that opportunity and I realized it worked, oh my God, it didn't take much. It just took some patience, some understanding, and some time. Who taught me that? My mom. How? Because I saw her working with all these little ones. Patient, time, understanding. She understood those kids. And even though I was bratty, all those kids loved her. And she was able to be stern. She was able to set boundaries. They grew. I'm a teenager looking at my cousins growing from being babies. I'm like, I love this. And that is a way to help. If you're able to build a child up and give them just little resources and just squirt it in their brain, because they will absorb everything you give them, then dump it, because they will grow from that. And that is what led me to education. And understanding that people learn differently, because I had such a hard time in English school and I couldn't understand why I was at that brain set, why I was so dumb in English and so great in Arabic. But then it wasn't that. It's a really, you have to deal with the child's way of functioning, because we all think differently. And there is a way to teach all mindsets. And that's what education gave me, the ability to have a classroom full of diverse mindsets and have the ability to say, I have a curriculum that I will not force everyone to bend to, because I don't want to bend. And they shouldn't, they're babies. So therefore, I will step up to the plate and change and modify the curriculum for all of them, because it's not that hard, you know.
So I just want to let the audience know that in our family, all the kids know how to swim. Fatima's mom, Aunt Liz, was instrumental in making sure all of the kids know how to swim. So it wasn't only that she had them in her home around early childhood education, which is what Fatima is in, but she also incorporated physical activity and swimming as a life skill that we needed to have as a family and as a people. So now, Fatima, let's get into your work now, which is in early childhood education. How long have you been in that? What's your day-to-day like? And then talk to us a little bit about how things have changed in the world of the Rona.
So what brought me to California was the opportunity to find a way to educate without all these boundaries. California is very open with accepting forward thinking. And so I wanted to be a part of that. But I received the opportunity to work in the federal building, which is, that has a school, an early childhood center in the federal building. that is really for parents to be able to bring their children to work, drop them off, pick them up, moving on. At that point in which I attended Kids by the Bay, which is in San Francisco, I was hired to be a pre-K teacher. At that time, the kids, they had no idea about structure for a pre-K classroom because these kids need to be ready for kindergarten. Kindergarten is not the same like when I went. I remember the toys I played with in kindergarten. I love those toys. I literally played all day. I mean, outside the fact that I didn't speak English, you couldn't do nothing much, but still, there were other kids in that class who played too, and they weren't speaking Arabic. So kindergarten must have looked that way. So they needed some person to structure what pre-K will look like in that federal building. So I was hired for that purpose. I was there for 7 years and was able to successfully build a curriculum and a standard for the pre-K class, which we call CRs. So, which was great. They allowed my creativity to blossom and just be that full person I want to be in that class, which I love. So I love going to work. My day-to-day will be going to work, being welcomed with a whole bunch of loud 4 or 5-year-olds who love you so much. They have they have a lot of energy, you know, but they're still babies. They don't know how to do much, but they want to do everything, you know. And the parents are highly anxious because, you know, it's their little ones. So you have to still have that understanding that you got to grow them because they're ready to go into a world, but then they're babies. So you have to find that balance. So most of my days is teaching them social and emotional skills, how to deal, how to solve problems, how to critical think, which is something that we're not adding in our curriculum across the board, across the states. We are not adding critical thinking, and that is the problem. And we see it happening now, the effects of not doing it. Anyway, so I purposely add critical thinking in my own classroom because critical thinking is very important in life itself, outside of what you're going to be. It's better for you to understand the world that you're in and how to adapt versus anything else. So I make sure I do that. By the time of the end of the day, I have like a 9-hour day with the children. So I'm kind of pooped at the end of the day. But it's been a routine that you get used to, especially when you love what you do. You know, you don't think about it. You just know years pass and you're like, whoa. Then COVID came. Then you know, whoa. Like, my life has changed. You know, when you are a teacher and you love, and I think when you love what you do, period, just not when you're a teacher. When you love what you do, because we all have a purpose in life. When you love what you do, your soul automatically opens up and connects to the very thing that you need to constantly become that highway of good information. So while you are releasing and becoming vulnerable to what you love, you're also receiving what it is that you need. And so when you're open like that, that's energy and it's time. And so when that happens, you don't know time is passing, but then at the same point when it puts you to a stop, whoa, you realize, whoa, what happened to that highway of receiving and giving I was used to? Because it's not there. And so it breaks you, it bends you. And I use the word bend because that's real. It bends you. And so when you're bent, that's a moment of reflection and silence. And so if you're not accustomed to reflection and silence, that could be a problem. And so, I think for most of us, COVID had changed the way we are thinking, the way we evaluate who we are as a person in our society, because we have gotten so accustomed of society also adding to our value. And because of that, when COVID stopped, you have this automatic impulse of saying who I am. And so you have to answer those questions, because if you don't, then, you know, you get into depression and things like that. So for me, I had a moment of that. And I think what saved me was schooling, because I was already in my doctorate program. So then I was able to still get a grade and say, oh, that's who I am. And get another grade, another class, and say, that's who I am. You know what I mean? So you had a weaning. I had a weaning process to defy who I am in COVID. So I had to put school to a side, and now I am raw. I'm open. I'm vulnerable. And those are the raw questions that you have to ask yourself in the mirror. Is this who you are? Are you true to yourself? Is this what you want to do? So I was able to do that, and I was still able to say, yes, 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 just louder. And so with that being said, I had a lot of opportunities through my parents who during their time dealing with whatever they're dealing with, because we're all dealing with something. And they reached out and wanted to know about my expertise for their children. Because when you teach children, you actually teaching the home. Because if you want what you teach to be effective, you got to get everybody on board. Everybody. Mommy, daddy, pet, no matter who it is. Come on. Let's do this. I'm educating the home. It's not just the child. Because in order for that to be enforced and stick, I need everybody to be on the same plane. Hello. So therefore, those parents, that's what they receive and that's what they want. You know, you don't know how much of an effect you have on someone else's life until it's no longer there. And that's what COVID did. COVID allowed everyone to say, I'm appreciative of this stranger who comes in my life every day and deal with my children. I'm appreciative of the words that my children come back and say, Mom, Miss Minor said, that is not okay. I'm appreciative of that. I have a check and balance. And so because of that, you don't know what you leave on the earth and into people. So you have to be true to yourself. But then it comes back. I get phone calls. What's your price? I need you. You are important. Yada, yada, yada. And so because of
wait. So you are now working directly with families?
Yeah.
Okay.
And their children.
Can you tell us what that is? How are you doing that? How have you made that pivot?
So the parents reached out to me and gave me this idea. So what I told them was, I'm willing. So you could talk to my class, which is my C Arter class. That's how it started, because I left, a class in the midst of everything. And so those parents reached out and said, hey, we wanted to know if you wanted to work with our kids individually as a private teacher. We will hire you as a private teacher, which is a very good thing. And then we could talk about the other part of that later. But anyway, so once they came up with a schedule that made sense, that could keep everybody safe, I limited myself to 2 children, because for me, I need to also consider my home, which has my children in it, and anybody who meets. So what I've learned to do is I count up to 10. So up to 10 people, including my home, and anybody that I would contact with, up to 10 people, that's my max. So that's what allowed me to only pick 2 children, because I had to pick their parents too. Yeah. So I had to pick, it's 2 kids who has 2 parents each. That's 6 kids. Me, my 2 kids. So I only have 1 more slot to be interacting with somebody in order to keep it safe. So that's what made me pick 2. But I could have chosen 12 if I wanted to. Okay. But safety first, because this is a real,
right. And how is that going? So do you go to their homes? Do they come?
I go to their homes. So I live in Hayward. So I take my trip into SF. Then I meet up with one family who takes me into the other family's home. So, and then we spend all day, because her home is set up as a classroom downstairs.
Nice.
And so I'm able to do that. And starting this week, we will be, because I did summer things with them. So this week we're moving into more on virtual learning. So, these parents have to work, and they are afforded the price to pay a private teacher. So it's a good thing, but it does, and it's a fortunate thing for me as a teacher, because I now have an income. But at the same time.
So wait, were you, your income had stopped because of the Rona?
Yeah.
When you was working at the federal building?
Yeah, my teachers, my school stopped paying me by the end of mid-April. And that was it. That was the last check. Then I was furloughed.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it has a financial impact on the money that you're accustomed of rolling in.
Okay.
And then it stops.
So working with these families to develop this pod, this educational pod, has actually it's just basically kept you afloat, or it's allowing you to continue to be able to take care of your home.
Exactly. That's exactly what it does. And because in where I stand at this moment, and I have beautiful adult children, but you know, they're just graduating from college, so they're not reckoning that though. So it's affecting everyone. Right. So I have to be the one to stand and make creative choices to keep this money coming in. Yeah. Because I can't fall. Right. That's not my option. That is, I am that pole. And so therefore, even though the wind is shaking it, yeah, we're gonna have to work on that. Put some reinforcements, because I can't. So then you have to think of creative ways to use your talent and believe in your talent, that somebody wants it, and do your work. And that's what also led me to the pod, and also led me to saying, I've been contemplating opening up my own school for years. I mean, it had to be a dream of when I first stepped my foot into synagogue and had to, somebody just drop a 19-year-old with a responsibility of holding a school. But it worked. And since that moment, I wanted to open up my own school. And for some reason, when you think of what you want to do and how things go, you have this televised episode version of it, and it's never that. And so, but it's really nice to be released from pressure of dreaming, and then you have to come back and say, okay, now how do I get there? And so I didn't have any expectation on how it was going to happen, but it's just been very inside. I can't complete my life unless I know I have a school running. That is my whole purpose. And so if I don't have that, there's no need for me to be here. I'm good. You could just, have a big old party. I could be gone.
So I know you're in a PhD program. What do you think? I mean, because you said you wanted to be a doctor. So, I mean, Dr. Minor is on her way.
I wanted to be a doctor that way, right? Isn't that funny?
Now, what are you getting your PhD in?
So my PhD is focusing on the leadership in education, in which I really want to focus on, because we need change. We've been talking about reform. If you anything about education, even I don't care if you have a child in education, you hear about reform. But the thing you don't hear that doesn't make sense about reform, it never reforms. Okay, because no one actually has a good idea. So therefore, educators are becoming a wanting commodity right now, especially because of COVID. The different ways in which educators understand and know the growth of people, because education is not whether I could just read a word or write. That's not it. Yes, it's a part, but that's the least important, to be honest, because you're going to get that anyway, right? It's kind of like if every day you pick me up and you're running and I'm steady walking, you know what I mean? At some point, I'm going to get my legs to running, because it's just effective. We are humans. We spill over, Right. And so what I do know is that we are going to need change in our educational system, because COVID showed the world that there is a gap. It exists. It is true. And it is hurting a fraction of our people. And for why? Why? Because it can't be because of pigmentation. The last time I checked, that wasn't a good enough qualification. So therefore, everybody has to step up. Everybody. Because we have to understand that while we're looking at a family and looking at that mama talking about, I don't even know why that mom let that child do that. Hello, let's stop. Because she needs to be educated too. Okay, he needs to be educated too. Everybody wants something. We have to understand that we can only want what we see or what we have been introduced to. And that's what your company brings to life. We have to be able to see beyond our block. We have to be able to see beyond our apartment door. We have to be able to see beyond our first meal. Oh my God. And that's what COVID brought out. Kids are not eating. It's not because it's in our doctoral program and 48%. Come on, dude. It's real. It's real. And it's going to take educators, not those ones that want to pass by with a check, not those ones who are true to this aspect, because we have a system of children that are being raised that we are unaware what we are facing, because now we see that is a true gap in education, a pure true gap, and it has to start in early childhood education. It is no way we could skip that. We are who we are based on the things that are doused in our minds as children. So early childhood education has everything to do with the right decisions that I make as an adult. The way that I was raised at 3, 4, 2, 1, and 5, that's why I make these decisions. So we have to be able to make these links and be so non-judgmental. It's so easy to judge somebody, especially when you need a boost in your own self-esteem, but that's not a good way to do it. But I've learned beyond that. But I used to be guilty of it, honey. I couldn't tell. I couldn't wait to see somebody with some non-straight teeth. I'm cute. Okay. But I'm just saying.
Okay. All right. So, final question. Is there any words of advice that you want to give a young person going into education or families? Our conversation spent a lot around, families and early childhood education. Like, what's a piece of advice that you could give someone right now with a little one at home about to go into virtual learning? How do we deal with our little ones with COVID? And how do we ensure that they're still getting what they need, even though they may be home and not with their peers and not with their loving teachers like you?
Interesting enough, I was just talking to a parent yesterday who needed assistance in their home because of that too. This is my advice. COVID-19 has reshaped the world that we know now, and it's a reality. So I think once we put a cap that this is a new reality for us, and that every decision we make is the unknown. And it feels very hard to be in an unknowing situation when you want to have plans. We are built to understand, to have plans. And it makes us feel secure to have plans. Sorry, COVID took that idea away. But we're still living, we're still breathing. And so how do we shake it up? Okay, accept that it's a difference. Accept that it's a change. Accept the burden that it's putting on you guys. Also, don't forget the children. They laugh, they play. They don't have intricate words to say, I am feeling this way. So be tuned with those kids and say, this child acting up, just somehow we're different. COVID, just blame it on COVID, because it probably is. A lot of things we could blame on COVID right about now, and we should take advantage of that. So if you are home with your children and you're trying to virtual learn them, do the best you can, period. I know we want our children to learn. In this kindergarten, they got to be in the first grade on top of things. No. It's about teaching and loving and connecting with that child's soul right now. This time that we have is not just a COVID-19 issue. It's not just a time in which, we don't know. It has uncertainties, but there are things that we have control over. We have control over connecting with our children at home, being able to slow down and say, what's up? How are you? Those are the most important lessons that we need to be doing with COVID-19. Now, if your child is in front of that virtual and she can't get an A from a B, that's fine. She'll get it. She will get it. He will get it. That is not important. The importance is making sure that that child is whole, because this COVID is affecting all of us. We as adults have the ability to compartmentalize things and make sense of it. Children do not. 4-year-olds don't. 5-year-olds, 10-year-olds. Yes, I'm saying 10, 12. Forget a 13-year-old, incapable, 14-year-old, incapable, 17-year-old, maybe. We have to understand that this age of 17, 18, and 19 does not make these children capable and able. It makes them tall and hella hungry. That's it. They are babies. And so because of that, we need to stop putting this pressure on these kids, especially during COVID-19. These are babies. They don't get their sense together until 30. I'm sorry. Oops. That is how our brain works. The connection of our brain don't hit until 18. So therefore, this is our brain. And all when we're young is way here. At 18, it's here. It didn't connect. At 21, it's here. Oh, those babies just got some electrical vibes. They have no clue what's going on. And you wonder why they're popping all around like rabbits. That's the reason why. Now, in 30, we're finally making a link. We have to understand that tall kids are still children. They're babies. So we have to connect with those babies in our home. I don't care if you got to look up to one of them. Okay? They're babies. I don't care if their voice is deep. They're babies. I don't care if they have they're babies. I don't care if their breast is bigger than yours. They are babies. And so our job as parents, while we want our children to be in this race of life, we don't know what it is. So what do we have control over? We have control over the way we connect to our home, the way we connect to our loved ones. And that is what we should be doing, period. Now, if you have time for virtual learning and that person could do great, good job. But we have to connect to that, because when we leave and the bubble opens, we're not entering the world that we used to know. We're not. We want to. We're dreamers. We will love it, but we're not. And so you want to prepare your children to be able to be confident in the new world. Oh, that's kind of cool. Columbus had nothing to do with that. Awesome.
You know what, Fatima?
Yeah.
This was awesome.
Oh, thanks.
This was really good. And I thank you for being open and honest and sharing your story with us. So we're going to leave it there. So thank you, Fatima. Thank you so much for sharing your truth. I'm so proud of you for sharing. So some 3 takeaways for me from our conversation was that observing her mom take care of all these kids, we got a big family, we got lots of kids, that it inspired her subliminally to go into education, right? She thought she wanted to be a doctor, but she kept passing out. But she about to finish that PhD, and we going to get a doctor in our family. So, you know, like if we just keep quietly, softly, consistently putting positive images and sharing information with our kids, it will inspire them to make a liberated career choice, right? And 2, I really connected to what she said about that, you know, we should really just be taking this time to really connect with our children and to get to know their souls, right? Get to know them as a human being, and stop pressuring them. They have so much on their plate already. And the final takeaway is that if you are an educator, you literally are educating the whole family. And that if you want your message to stick, you have to connect with the entire family. So thank you, Fatima. And I can't wait until, you know, these Rona numbers are much lower and we're able to really move about, because I can't wait to come to Cali and visit you. So thank you so much. Deliberated Success community, I am not going to hold you much longer today. And as always, I thank you for watching all the way to the end. You know, we've got some really exciting things coming up, and I want you to drop your email address in the comments, or you can DM me or inbox me, because I really want you to know what's happening. And I send out a monthly newsletter the first Saturday of every month. So next week's newsletter will have our first virtual event, and it's going to be a free event, and I really want you to be a part of this for your kids and for yourself, because I mean, all this information is transferable, right? It's geared for our young people, but look, grown-ups are taking some stuff away too. So you know what we got to do, right? Hit the GoFundMe link. Your donations are much appreciated. And we got to save ourselves, right? Mask up, wash your hands, socially distance, all Black Lives Matter, vote, because I'm a little shook right now. And I'll see you next time. Bye.
One whole day to play. Come on, everybody.